Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace be unto you and peace from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha the Messiah, his son. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you Gog and Magog, the final conflict, and this is part 5. Now we've seen the evidence. We know who the people are that shall inhabit the promised land. We know for a fact now has nothing to do with the church. The Bible is definitive. It constantly repeats itself on this issue. The Father confirms. And now listen, you don't listen to the rabbis, don't listen to the pastors, don't listen to the bishops, don't listen to the popes. If you believe that this word is true, listen to your Bible. But you have to study to find all of the things that the Europeans have inserted so that they can include themselves in the promises of Israel. But when it plays out in the end, you will not see them in the promised land. Why? Because the Father did not choose them. He chose a bloodline. He did not choose converts. He chose a bloodline, the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Yasrael, or Israel as we know it today, and this is the one that he chose. He gave them a covenant. No one else has a covenant. No one else. Only Israel. The church has no covenant. You'll never find any place in the Bible where he calls the church his people. They are not. The only ones that are his people are Israel, and he says it repeatedly. We know where the location of the promised land is. It's in Israel. It's in a desolate place. We shall inhabit and rebuild the desolate places, not the Jerusalem that we know here today, but we shall inhabit the original city of David that has been left desolate for all of these years. The Father would not allow anyone to come in and rebuild it. It is ours, brothers and sisters. Now that we've identified who the people are, we need to see some other things. We hear that the Father has prepared a burial place for Gog and Magog, all of those who shall come against the children of Israel in the last days. Let's check this out. Ezekiel chapter 39, verses 1 to 2. We've just come out of Ezekiel 38. We've read the whole thing. Now we want to go to chapter 39. It'll end this thing. Verse 1. Therefore, thou, son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, Thus saith Yahuwah the Mighty One, Behold, check it out, pay attention, I am against thee. When the master of the universe is against you, you are in trouble, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And in some translations, they use the word Rosh. Verse 2, And I will turn thee back, and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, so you see where they're coming from, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel, and you see their destination. They shall come from the north parts, and they shall come down upon the mountains of Israel. Now, if you look in verse 1, it tells you that the Father is against Gog, and that he is the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. When we look on this ancient map, go to the top, you'll see the Black Sea. If you come right down under the Black Sea, you should see Gomer. Then you should see to your left Meshach, and to your right Tubal. Now, if you look up further back to the Black Sea, and come towards your right, you will see Magog. That is the land of Gog. Now, it tells you that Gog is the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Magog is far towards the north. All of the land of Magog is anything towards the north and all the way into Asia. So the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal is Gog. But look at the location that Meshach and Tubal inhabits. This is called Turkey. And it tells you that Gog is their chief prince. Let me show you what I've discovered about this. The Brookings, Turkey, Meshach and Tubal, and Russia, the land of Gog, have a centuries-long history woven together by eras of conflict and half-hearted cooperation. In recent years, the two countries have moved closer together under the increasingly authoritarian leadership of Turkish President Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin. In September, Turkey rebuffed NATO's warnings and finalized a deal to purchase advanced S-400 air defense missile systems from Russia, a move Erdogan called a matter of Turkey's national security. So you see, Turkey and Russia are in bed together, just like Saudi Arabia and the United States. Russia, the land of Magog, Turkey, Meshach and Tubal, and Iran, Persia, are also seeking deeper cooperation on Syria, where despite clashing interests, the three are negotiating an end to the conflict on their own terms. Finally, and after a brief halt in 2016 due to political tensions, Russia's state atomic energy corporation Rosatom is set to build a $20 billion nuclear power plant in southern Turkey, which some estimate to become operational by 2023. Do you see that? Who's in control here? Who has the money and expertise to build these nuclear power plants? Who has a military and a navy that can rival the United States of America? Russia. Do you remember I showed you that in some translations they use the word Rosh? But it doesn't apply to the location of Meshach and Tubal. It applies to the land of Magog. But what it does apply to is that Rosh, or Russia, is the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, which is Turkey, and you see it here. You do not build a $20 billion nuclear power plant in a place unless you are totally in bed together. Many of these moves are pragmatic and instrumental. Turkey, like many European nations, relies extensively on Russia for its energy needs. So if you see who's running the show here, Russia, the land of Magog. And it's telling you that many European nations rely on Russia for its energy needs. Who's in control over there, brothers and sisters? Russia. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 3 to 4. And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Your nukes, your missiles, they shall fall to the ground. Verse 4. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, so shall ye lose your life in the mountains of Israel. Thou, that's you, O Gog, and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beast of the field to be devoured. The Father has prepared a feast for his animals, his birds, and the ravenous beasts of the field. Listen, the same way that they've done to the beast of the field, you know, they hunt for sport, just to hang up trophies on their walls. The Father is going to gather the birds and the beasts of the field together to eat upon their flesh after they fall upon the mountains of Israel. Verse 5, thou shalt fall upon the open field, that's where you shall die, for I have spoken it, saith Yahuwah the Mighty One, and if he has spoken it, even if you don't believe it, it shall come to pass. Verse 6, and I will send a fire on Magog. Now, Magog is the land, so that's the fire is going to go through all of Russia, all to the European nations, straight on into Asia, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles. So he's even covered the islands of the sea, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah, the master of the universe. Vindication, brothers and sisters. The Father is going to vindicate his people. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad for this word. For the Father is showing you all you have to do is keep my commandments, have the testimony of my Messiah. And you have to fight, brothers and sisters, through this tribulation period. He that endureth to the end, he's the one who shall be saved. Verse 7, so will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel. Did he say in the midst of the church, the Europeans, the Africans, the Asians? He constantly describes who his people are. And I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. We won't be calling him Jesus, Jehovah, all that old stupid stuff anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahuwah, the Holy One of Israel. Did he say he's the Holy One of the church, the Holy One of the Europeans, the Holy One of the Africans, the Holy One of the Asians? He constantly describes who his people are. No one else, brothers and sisters. They're the only ones who made a covenant with him at the mountain and were sprinkled with blood. Come on. No one else can take these promises upon themselves because they're not under contract. Eternal life is not for anyone but Israel. The land is not for anyone but Israel. The Messiah is not for anyone but Israel. Verse 8, behold, check it out, pay attention. It is come, and it is done, saith Yahuwah, the Mighty One. You see that? He says, behold, it is come, it is done. Who is speaking? Yahuwah, the Mighty One, him who is seated upon the throne. This is the day whereof I have spoken. I have given this word to my prophets and have passed it down from generation to generation, and you shall see the vindication of the children of Israel. Verse 9, and they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth, and shall set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows, and the handstaves, and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years. That is a lot of weapons, brothers and sisters. 7 years we shall gather them and burn them with fire. Remember, he says they shall come at us like the sand of the sea, like a cloud that covers the skies. This is how many there shall be. It seems like there's going to be billions. Verse 10, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any out of the forest, for they shall burn the weapons with fire. And they shall spoil those that spoil them, and rob those that rob them, saith Yahuwah, the mighty one. We won't have to cut down any wood. 7 years, we'll use the weapons that they had to make bonfires. And then it tells you that the people who spoiled us, we're going to spoil them. We're going to take their possessions. And the ones who robbed us, we're going to rob them. I want you to understand who said this. Yahuwah, the mighty one. Vindication. Everything they did to us, he says, we're going to do it right back to them. Verse 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel. They wanted the land, brothers and sisters. If you go through Edom, you find out that they all tried to get the land of Israel. Every nation on the planet laid claims to our land. Now the Father's going to give it to them. They will not be on top of the earth, but they shall be underground after we finish burying them, and they shall be fertilizer for the land and food for the beast of the field. The valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses of the passengers. It shall be so stinking putrid, because their numbers are as the sand of the sea, brothers and sisters, that all of the passengers who pass by the land, you will have to cover your nose, brothers and sisters, from the stink. And there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon Gog. So the Father has prepared a burial place. Do you see on the map here has Jerusalem, and it's a star, right? That's not where Jerusalem is. Do you see Edom here? If you come a little bit to your right, the New Jerusalem, or Jerusalem, or the city of David, is over in this area. And the burial ground, Hamon Gog, will be there in the orange where you see it now. Verse 12, and 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying of them, that they may cleanse the land. Stop. For 7 months it says that the church is going to be burying Gog and Magog, that they may cleanse the land. Isn't that what the Bible just said here? Or is it the house of Israel? Where is the church then? The church must be the ones who are getting buried. They do not appear. Remember, 2.2 billion. After 1,000 years, that 2.2 billion may turn into 6 billion people, descendants of the people who created the church. We shall be burying the people or the descendants of those who created the church for 7 months. Verse 13, yea, all the people of the land shall bury them. You have to be a participant, brothers and sisters. And it shall be to them a renown the day that I shall be glorified. While we're burying them, we shall be glorifying our Father. They came up against us, and he sent a fire down from heaven and destroyed our enemies finally, and he has prepared for them a burial plot, saith Yahweh, the mighty one. I love him. Verse 14, and they shall sever out men of continual employment. We're going to have to hire people just to bury bodies, passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search. So after the 7 months is done, now the search begins. Verse 15, and the passengers that pass through the land, when any seeth a man's bones, then shall he set up a sign by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Magog. They're going to set up a flag that will show where the bones of one of the children of Magog or any of their cohorts are. You'll set up a flag, the buriers will see it, and they shall come and bury the bones or the bodies that they find. Verse 16, and also the name of the city shall be Hamanah, thus shall they cleanse the land. Verse 21, and I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed. What judgment was that? He has given them a burial place. He has wiped them off the face of the earth. All of those who have encompassed his children Israel, he has destroyed them with a fire that came out of his mouth from heaven, and my hand that I have laid upon them. Verse 22, so the house of Israel shall know that I am Yahweh, their mighty one, from that day and forward. Listen, brothers and sisters. Do you see that word there in between Yahuwah and the mighty one? That is a possessive pronoun. It describes a person, place, or thing. Who's the person that it's describing? Israel. It is telling you that Israel, Yahuwah, is only Israel's mighty one. Nobody else. And we shall be convinced from that day forward, after he has destroyed all of our enemies. We have been totally vindicated. We've spoiled those that spoiled us. We've robbed them that robbed us. Our Father has prepared a burial place right before our eyes and showed us the destruction of our enemy. We shall know from that day forward that he is our mighty one. Verse 23, and the heathen, all of those, the remnant of those that are left, shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity. Now the Father's going to explain why he's destroyed them. Because we went into captivity for our iniquity. Because they, us, we, the house of Israel, trespassed against him. Therefore he hid his face from us and gave us into the hand of our enemies. So fell our people all by the sword. Do you see that? The ones who took us into captivity, the ones who killed us, slayed us by the sword, he's prepared a burial place for them. Verse 24, according to their uncleanliness and according to their transgressions have I done this. This is why we went through this, brothers and sisters. And hid my face from them. Because we turned our backs on him, he hid his face. Verse 25, therefore thus saith Yahweh, Yahuwah, the mighty one. Now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob. And Jacob is Israel, brothers and sisters. You see that word again? That means a second time. This is not the first time. This is the second time. Do you understand? He brought our captivity a second time after this 400 years in America, brothers and sisters. The Father has come to deliver us a second time. I want you to put your thinking caps on. Has there been any other people in the last days that have been taken captive, that are still scattered all around the world in the land of their captivity, that were taken around the world in ships, just like the Bible says? Come on, we need to wake up. He's saying he's going to bring our captivity the second time and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel. Did he say the church? No. The house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. Verse 26, after that they have borne their shame. You see that? We are here in the land of our captivity. We are bearing our shame today. We are ashamed. We should be. If you think that you can hold your head up high, you can't. This is shameful. Our ancestors sinned against the Father, the Master of the universe, who brought their captivity the first time. It is a shame what our ancestors have done, and it's what we have done too, because we turned to Jesus. It is a shame, brothers and sisters. But we have borne it. We've coming out of it. And all their trespasses whereby they have trespassed against me, we're keeping his commandments today. We're doing what he says. That means he's going to come back and gather us from all the nations and take us back into the promised land. And when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid. But then came Gog and Magog to come against the ones whom the Father himself has brought out of the land of their captivity, brought them into the promised land, and caused them to dwell safely. These crazy folks came up against us once more. Verse 27, when I have brought them again from the people. Can we stop for a moment? You see the word brought? You see in parentheses, there's a word there, redeemed. There is a law in the Bible about redemption. In Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68, it tells you that we shall be taken around the world in ships, and that no man shall buy us. What it meant was that no man shall redeem us. The Europeans took that out, and they put the word buy. But because we study now, we understand the terminology, right? Redemption is only for family members. According to the law, the only person who could redeem you, buy you back, if you went into debt and then had to go into slavery because you could not pay your debts and lost your lands, only person who could redeem you is your kinsman redeemer who can pay the fair price and purchase you back. This is what it's talking about here, brothers and sisters. The Father has redeemed us. He has purchased us by the blood of his Son. This is not for the church. This is only for the children of Israel. Redemption is only for his family members. Deuteronomy 28 speaks of a people that were taken captive in ships. Who was that? The tribe of Judah. They were the ones taken around the world in ships. Where does our Messiah fare from? The tribe of Judah. That makes him our kinsman. He is also an Israelite. The only one who could redeem us from our enemies is our kinsman redeemer. What is his name? Yahusha. Let me tell you another one. The word redeemed. You see the prefix re, it means return. How can anyone else return to the Father or be redeemed unless they first were under covenant? Unless they first were of the bloodline. You cannot return to him if you never were a part of him in the first place. Get that in your head, brothers and sisters. And gathered them out of their enemies' lands. Did he rapture us? He said he gathered us. First, he redeemed us. He purchased us back. He paid the fair price in blood. Then he's going to gather us out of the lands of our enemies. Who can claim this? Who was taking around the world in ships in these last days in this transatlantic slave trade? No one else but Israel, brothers and sisters. And am sanctified. That word sanctified means set apart. In them, in the sight of many nations. He's going to set us apart. All of the nations shall know who we are. They shall have to come and bow down and kiss our feet and proclaim that we are the city of the mighty one. Verse 28. Then shall they know that I am Yahuwah, their mighty one. How much evidence do you need in just 2 verses? There is a pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun. It describes a person, place, or thing. Who is he talking about here? The ones who've been redeemed. The ones who've been gathered out of their enemies' lands. The ones who have been sanctified before the nations. Israel, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. Who did this? The mighty one. Why? Because we refuse to keep his commandments. But now, brothers and sisters, we have turned back to him. We have repented. We have returned. We have changed our ways. We are keeping his commandments. But I have gathered them out, or gathered them unto their own land. Did he gather those Jews that's over there unto the land, or did the Balfour Agreement do that? And have left none of them any more there. This is mighty, brothers and sisters. This proves you are the object of his affections if you turn to him. When he says, and not left any of them any more there, he's talking about the ones who have turned to him. The others, the ones who are calling on Jesus, they're still in their Gentile mentality. They have nothing to do with him anymore. Verse 29. Neither will I hide my face anymore from them. Did you hear that? We shall see his face. When I used to be in church, there was a song that we used to sing. It's an old school song. Oh, I want to see him, look upon his face. There the King of glory and his saving grace. On the streets of glory, let me lift my voice. Cares all past, home at last, ever to rejoice. You see, our people, we were singing these things about going to Zion, but yet calling on Jesus that was going to lead us to the pit. But look at this. For I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel. Do you see this? How much proof can you have in one chapter? Who did he pour his spirit out to? Israel. This is why our brothers, our sisters are online today in YouTube, all over the place, prophesying, not prophesying like the church, prophesying. Do you know what prophecy is? It is bringing forth this scripture, this word. They're not talking about you're going to receive a check in the mail. They're talking about the word of the Most High that you have never heard before. That's prophecy. The only way they can do that is because the Father has poured out his spirit upon the children of Israel. And we are speaking for him. We are his mouthpiece. We use scriptures while they use church doctrine. Look what it says in the end. Saith, who said this? Yahuwah, the mighty one. He's telling you who he poured his spirit out to. Do you know on the day of Pentecost, he poured his spirit out to who? Only the apostles. What tribe were they from, Brother David? The tribe of Judah. Then after he poured his spirit out to them, they spoke in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Who did they speak to, Brother David? Devout men from the tribe of Judah, out of every nation in which they were scattered when they returned to the temple for the feast of Pentecost. He spoke to them in their own language by people who did not know all of the different languages. That was the purpose of tongues, so that he can speak to those people so they can go back to their regions and prophesy to the children of Israel that their Redeemer has come. Wake up, brothers and sisters. If you understand this, then you understand why they hate us. He has not done any of this for anyone else, just you. Continue to part 6.